Dr. Christy Taylor, certified career and executive coach, founder of Work Solutions LLC and Work Global News Magazine. And I'm excited today to bring you another edition of our Changemaker series with one of our featured speakers from the Prescription for Career Success Summit, Dr. Esther Graham. Dr. Graham is a certified master neurotransformational coach and counselor with over 30 years of experience in education, coaching, and transformational training. Dr. Graham, so excited to see you today. I'm going to call you Esther. You call me Christy, but I'm so excited to just meet and with you and have a great discussion. And, you know, a slight introduction there. And I have to make a joke here. Listen, we do these videos. We had to start over because her credentials are so long. I was about to read her entire awesome bio. But Dr. Graham, let me let you to introduce yourself to the audience, and then we're going to jump right into this conversation today.
Well, thank you so much for the honor of just, being a part of what you are doing in the world. So it is a privilege and it's a blessing. So what do? It's just as you read in a nutshell. I'm a neurotransformational coach. I love to empower women entrepreneurs, C-suite, women to just become the best that they can be because they're created for more. Was a professor at one point. I'm an entrepreneur with a couple of businesses in the field of early childhood. So there's just a lot that I do, but I incorporate all of it to really just empower. I like to say women, but some men come along as well because they need it too. And so that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I've built that platform for women myself, and I have one family member, shout out to Adrian, who is notorious. He will show up for every single event for my group. He also does it for my friend Kevin Ray, who's the founder of Dear Black Woman. And it's sometimes, because men need this stuff too, right? So they're always welcome with open arms. But again, we have our niche audience, but people need that.
Yeah.
Now you have built out a powerful legacy. Like I said, I was like, with the beginning of this, we started this as a conversation. I said, I'm gonna do your introduction, briefly read. I started reading it, and we had to start over because it's just so long. And you have done all of this awesome work. It's like if somebody's like a host like me, I don't want to leave anything out. And with this platform that you have built as an author, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, how you're supporting women. What was really that defining moment for you that led you to fully embrace your purpose and step into this transformational work? And I noticed that transformation is like, even in your bio, is one of those words that truly stands out. So what got you kind of started?
I think what really got me deep into it was when I lived in Italy. So I lived in Italy for several years. So it goes back to, some people would say, well, why is your business called Festa Della Donna? So that's one of my business. That's the training and development where I really do a lot of the transformation work. I lived in Italy, and Festa Della Donna means International Women's Day. And when I lived there, I saw how the women just celebrated each other and supported each other and did all these different things. And honestly, I didn't see it much in the United States or many other places. And I did not see it in the workforce, where as women that we support each other and we celebrate each other and we say, hey, you got this, you can do it. And so my thoughts started going, transformation needs to happen from the inside out. And so, but it started with me. It started with me. I decided maybe I need to do some transform and make some changes in my mindset shift and my heart set so I can begin to help others really embrace who they are and what they're really called to do. So that's really how I began the transformational work. Christy, let me tell you something. I have seen lives change radically just from doing this transformational work. It is amazing when a person comes in, especially a leader, comes in at one level, and by the time they're finished going through everything, the programs, doing the retreats, just the outcome, the change that happens. I've seen them start new businesses, increase their businesses. So it's been powerful.
Yeah, I mean, because listen, one of the fundamental things you said there is mindset. And I think if you listen to a few of these interviews, one of the things I like to say is my favorite people are coaches, because it is always that you have a personal story to share. It's unlike therapy, right? Because even though coaching is therapeutic, the reason why people come to you as a coach is because they can relate to you on a personal level, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, the story actually started with the transformation, the personal transformation that you experienced. And you're using the lessons that you've learned in your life and from your own journey to motivate, train, and help other people change their mindset and really reach their full potential. Now, Your
Yeah.
personal journey was really, you touched on it a little bit, was one of self-discovery and healing. It plays such a
Yeah.
pivotal role. You just highlighted reshaping your business,
Yeah.
So you said in the beginning here that you really like to focus on supporting women, but like you said, anybody who shows up who needs it, right, you're there. But when it
Yeah,
comes
I'm
to
there.
specifically us as women, what advice do you give to women who feel stuck and are unsure about how to move forward in their personal and professional lives?
I think the best advice I give them is really begin to really do a self discovery. Do a walk. I call it the journey back to you. Do a walk back as to where you are and where is it that you really want to be. And I think, and I go from my personal experience in that I was feeling stuck. My business was successful. I'm married. My marriage was, successful. All of these things, my children, everything was great. But Christy, I felt so stuck. And I felt, how can I take my
Mhm.
my business to that next level where I know it could go. And what I discovered was I needed to go back into Esther, right? And discover, really look at what is it that I really want to do? And how can I affect change first in myself and then in others? And so, my advice to any woman, anyone that really feels stuck, especially in their business or their career, is go back and say, what is it I really want? Where am I right now in my life? And just be totally transparent and honest with yourself. I think sometimes we're not honest and
Yeah.
transparent with ourselves. And that's what stops us. We don't want to admit, I'm struggling in this leadership role. What is it? Why are we struggling? When you begin to really go back and you begin to look at where you are internally, that's why I call it, where's your heart set? Where is your heart? What are some things you're holding on to that you could release to? Because those things you're holding on to could be the very well things that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you from moving up in your career, in your business, wherever you are in life. Where are the things? Some of us have trauma and we don't even realize it, that we're just holding on to it. We've got compartments in our hearts and in our bodies that we're holding on to. We're not releasing it. And once we find that when we begin to release it, then we can release those greatness in us for us to go to the next level.
I
Yeah,
absolutely
I mean,
love that. I love that. Because again, a lot of times it's just people not realize. Look, I only deal with this from
not
the
realizing.
standpoint of a um, career coach, because that's my great love. So when people
Hmm.
come to me,
Yeah,
I would say some aspects of what I do is holistic career coaching, but I don't get
yeah,
into
yeah.
the realm of life coaching. So it's important for me to meet with clients and kind of get a feel for what they need, because
Hmm.
most career coaching starts as transactional. It's kind of like, oh, I need a resume, a cover letter. Then you start having
Yeah,
those
yeah,
conversations,
yeah.
right? But sometimes it's great to have connections with coaches like you, because some clients will come to me and they need that holistic life coaching, right,
Hmm.
outside of the context of career.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm all about referring. Now,
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the things, the challenges I find specifically with career, though, where I work with clients, is the self doubt, feelings of imposter syndrome, and
yeah.
feeling like they don't deserve that seat at the table. And you have talked about overcoming self doubt, imposter syndrome, a fear of
Imposter.
failure to your own path for success. Like, what mind shift did it really take for you to help you break through those barriers? And then, again, let's go back to how you're now using that to help other people.
I think, one of the biggest mind shift for me, honestly, was number one, I realized this is where I was. I think, like for me, especially the imposter syndrome, we're working so hard. It's so important, especially for Black women, that it's, many times because of who we are, and not just Black women, I should say all women. Because sometimes we're emotional beings, we don't realize, right, that some shifts have to make. So what happens is that you really have to go in and say, this is where I am, this is my goal. I began to do coaching activities, that had to do with unblocking, had to do with identifying who I am, right, and what I like and what I don't like. So it really, again, it begins with you. So Christy, while I do a lot of business coaching, I stop when I see, okay, we can't get any further. I go back and say,
Mhm.
let's talk about what's blocking you, what's stopping you, and then we begin to just go down a path. We begin to talk about unconscious consciousness. What are some things that many times you're unconsciously doing or saying or reacting to, right? Because
Mhm.
what we're doing and how we feel, what's the word? Uh, it will show up in our lives. So begin to look at how you're showing up. And do you like how you're showing up? And if you don't, let's first go back to why. And so I do a lot of transformative activities uh, to kind of go back in. I did it on myself and I do it with my clients. And so we just begin to hit it on the nose, you know? And sometimes it's not easy,
Yeah.
but it's worth it.
I'm going to do something that I don't usually do with my guests. You have a number of coaching programs, and I'm just going to say the title of the program, and then I just want you to give me maybe 10 or 15 seconds quick, because it's about four of them, of what a person can expect from those programs, right? And then I'll hand it back to you
Mhm.
to kind of speak more in depth. So if I'm coming in to participate in one of your programs, one of your programs called Rising to Your Destiny, what is that about?
So, rise into your destiny is basically taking you step by step, realizing who you are and what your destiny is. And I believe that destiny comes in stages, right? Based on where you are at the time. So, at the time when I was young and married, and I just finished my college education, I wasn't out to work yet, I had our first child. That was right there, was where I was supposed to be at that time. And when I was finished with that, each step is a level. So rise into your destiny is really getting to what you have said. This is where I am supposed to be at this present time. And so we work on rising up to that, to living it out, to walk into it, to reaching it, to going further beyond it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So would the next step be dare to live fully?
Dare to live fully, like really embracing who you are. I like to say who God has created you to be in the first place. Many times we don't know. We've got so many skills, so much just in us, and we don't know is there. So dare to live fully is like I'm going to embrace fully who I am and who I'm supposed to be, and I'm going to show up in this mode all the time, 365 days out of the year.
Okay, and then we have the possibility journey.
So the possibility journey is for that person who may feel as if there are things I want to do, but I don't know if it's possible for me. And so they limit how they're living. And the possibility journey is really for you to look way beyond and see there's so many things out there that anything that you put your mind to do, that you can do it. So in that program, you're coming with not with just with life, but even your business skills. So in this program, Possibility Journey has helped. I have a client that her revenue increased 30%. I have one who wrote her book, started her nonprofit, and they did it just through being this. As a matter of fact, they went through all of the programs. Why? Because we started unpacking some things. They started to see, oh my, I could do this. I could really achieve this. This is in me. And then we give them not just that we work on the skills, but then we give them the tools on how to get there,
I
walking
love
them through
that.
it, walking them through it.
So, and then the fourth program is You Were Created for More. And I think I heard you mention that one earlier in the conversation.
Earlier, yeah, yeah. So really, you were created for more is really the first one, because people just need to know that they were created for more. If you don't know you're created for more, then we can't do anything else with you. And and somebody may say, "Well, that sounds so simple." It really is, but we have a lot of people now that they live in mediocrity, or or they just think that they could have more. I'm here. I heard someone say, well, I'm here and this is how it's going to be. Only if you decide that's how it's going to be, then you're limiting yourself. You were created for more. We all were. But what is the more for you? Because the more for me is going to be different than the more for you. What's your more? And how much of your more do you want? Do you want a little more? Do you want a lot more? Where is it you want? So you were created for more. It's just really embracing that God created you for a purpose on this earth.
You know, some
And
of
you get to
our parts of
decide.
our bio, it reads alike: education, coaching, training.
Yeah.
And you just said the word mediocrity. And I was thinking, back when I worked in higher education, I used to tell my students, don't settle for a mediocre life just because you're
Yeah.
being told that
Yeah.
this is all there is, right? So I want you to speak a little bit more to that, because part of the things that you do, you really emphasize the importance of personal development as the foundation for success
Mhm.
in business, but I would also say in life, right, as well as when
Yeah.
you're helping
Oh, yeah.
clients. So what are some
Yeah.
of those key personal growth practices that I'm not going to even say this in the context of entrepreneur, but just individuals, whether you're an entrepreneur or individual, right? Because I want you to just stay within that context of people settling for mediocrity, because we have internal, external locus of control. You can't always control the external, but you can control the internal, right? And you have made a
Internal,
great point that
yeah.
your mindset plays a role in that. So I want you to respond to that, because I really just love what you said there about not selling, selling yourself out of your true potential.
Yeah. So many of us have been told that, we can't have this. We've always been told that, many have heard you could have to do this or that instead of this and that. And so that's how we begin to say, well, I'm just going to settle for this because this is all I could really do. And it really has to come to now where we begin to talk about having an entire, people say a mindset shift. Some of us need a whole mindset makeover,
Yeah.
a whole mindset makeover. So the first thing is that we have to begin to talk about where did this come from, right? When because many of times we've learned what we've learned from since we were a child, right?
Yeah.
And it's embedded in us, and so we've got to say, where did this come from, so I could move out of this, so I could really step in. So trying to think of a great activity that really help you to discover who you are. And it's just one of the things I like to do is just kind of talk about what was the last decision you made? Why did you make this decision? Where did this decision come from? And so that begins when you begin to think about that, that really kind of begins to think about the mindset shift. What's your perspective on this? And where did that come from? What lenses are you seeing things out of? And where did this come from? And then here's a really good question. What makes you believe that?
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Because many times we don't even know why we believe it, or what are you making that to mean for you? You know, why are you making this to mean for you? And so beginning to really look at that, and I like to say it's not just the mindset, it's the heart set as well, because there is a connection, right? There is a connection. And so many times we could begin to talk about the mind, which is great, right? We should, but then the heart comes along with it as well. As you said, it's the inner world that we control. It's really not the outer world.
Mhm.
When I can begin to control everything I do in my inner world, then I can begin to translate the two, put the two together. And what is in my heart is in my mind, and what is in my mind is in my heart. And that's exactly what I do. Here's the question. What's in it? What's really there? I hope I'm answering the question. Does it?
Yeah, you did. This reminds me so much of one of those things in life. You have those moments in life that stays with you. And I remember being 19 years old, joining a church in San Antonio. Okay,
Yeah.
joining this church in San Antonio. Years passed, I moved, and then after I left the military, I came back to San Antonio, and I believe that was around 2008. Okay, so 2008, I get to
Mhm.
come back to San Antonio. Here, I think at this point in time, I'm a 24-year-old kid. Go back to this church. Went to a Bible study one night, and when I went to that Bible study, that's when I found out that the pastor of my church had cancer, and it was terminal. And this man was still running Bible study, but it's something that he said while my outward man is declining, my inner man must still be renewed. To me, that took a level of courage, right? To know he's leaving,
Yeah.
he's transitioning. He was young in his 50s, and he's still up there. That is something that stuck with me. And to your point, you have to get to the root cause of those things, manage your mindset, being
Yeah.
able to push through and have a strength about yourself and a true understanding. Because I know he had to know who he was, right? To keep
Yeah.
moving like that.
Yeah.
Now, Esther, I want to talk about this TV show. You have a show called Creating Your Desired Life that comes on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and a
Mm.
podcast called Living a Life by Design. You have had your work
Design.
featured in multiple magazines. Let's start with the TV shows and podcast first. And then we'll talk about this book, okay, and some of the work that you do. So tell us about what motivates you, because you are doing a lot, Tell us
Yeah.
what motivated you to do this show and this podcast.
It is a lot. First of all, I do it all because I really know I'm called to do it. So, creating your desired life is really a TV show. I have guests on there. I hope one day that you will be a guest. Let me put that plug. But
Anytime.
yeah, and so it's a show I love to bring on. I like to have conversations, and I love to bring on people who are changing the world in personal development, in business, in life. I just really believe in holistic living. You know,
Hmm.
and so creating your desired life is really saying you get to create the life that you desire. And so, what life do you desire? And so I bring people on who've got powerful stories that will share their stories and said, this is what I did to begin to turn the road or, in my life. So I could begin to create the life that I desire in every area. I have 7 principles that I work out of, but in every area. And that's the same with living a life by design. It's the living a life by design. Again, bringing people on to talk about how do you live your life by design. In every area, in finances, in business, in entrepreneurship, in relationship, in your spirituality, in your health and wellness, in your growth. Do you have a growth mindset? Are you renewing your mind all the time? Why? Because if we're on this earth, things are always changing, things are always happening. And so we always have to be in motion, renewing, so we could continue showing up powerfully. And so that's really what both of them are focused on. A little bit different, but yet the same.
Well, I love that for you. And you are also a #1 national and international best-selling author of Why Stepping into Purpose. And you have published From Trials to Triumphs, volumes 1 and 2. And your work has been featured on multiple magazines. So this is probably one of the first times it's like we're going down this set of questions, but I'm literally pulling these questions out the blue from your bio because you have such an excellent body of work. And then you put on here in the end just a little snippet in the end. By the way, I was on TEDx. You know what I mean? So just a little snippet of the bio was like, oh, by the way, she's also a TEDx speaker. So all of these things you've done, I think to me, you're living a true living example of what we mean when we talk about change maker. So I want you to speak a little bit about your books and then we're going to transition, talk a little bit about where you're headed in the next steps for your company organization.
So my book is Why Stepping into Purpose, and I did it. I have a saying: version one is better than version none. And so and so I was working on the book, and finally I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it out. And why stepping into purpose is really was asking myself, why? Why is it important to step into purpose? And in the book, I just kind of went through my journey as a young girl who grew up. My parents were pastors in Guyana, South America. So I'm not originally from the United States, coming to America and living in a life. Then I get married. I married a military person, right? And I didn't want to be a pastor's wife. He was in the military. He felt God was calling him into the ministry. And I was like, no, you know? And so I found that I had purpose, although at one point I felt as if I didn't. So the book just takes you through my journey of when I was going through a searching, to find myself, searching to really fulfill. I had my degree and I felt as if I was doing absolutely nothing. I felt like if everybody was living this life and here I am just living in mediocrity, just a good little wife, not doing nothing. And so the book just represents, get out there and just do it. The importance of stepping into purpose, the importance of why I'm here and just doing it. Version one is better than version none.
Now you've done all of these things, and with your company, you're continuing to lead change, be a change maker through. Now you're doing retreats and international events. Now, do you have anything coming up that you want to promote? But again, guys, I always feel like these podcasts are timeless. So it doesn't matter if you're listening to it today, tomorrow, next week, next year, 10 years from now, because the advice is always timeless, right? But talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you have coming up and how those things that you're doing again are helping people with their breakthroughs. And we got about I would say 3 minutes left in the pod in this episode, but I want you to highlight that, and then we're going to just quickly touch on what you're going to be talking about in the conference.
So because I'm a trainer at heart, one of the things I have coming up is this Friday or this Saturday, I have Women Rising Together, a virtual day of just celebrating women. But I do a lot of retreats, Christy, because at a retreat where I first received my healing. And so I do a lot of transformational retreats. They're every 6 months. The next one is in May, coming up in Cartagena. They're exclusive, they're executive. And this one is for a week long, and we go through some transformational work and we just have a great time. So look out for all of my retreat. We do a marriage retreat. I do that with my husband. And I also do retreats for just women and women who are in business, entrepreneurship, or wherever you are in life. I also have my live event that is coming up in June. So those are some of the things, and it'll be here in Delaware.
Now we're going to make sure that we put your information, all of your description for your website and all that stuff will be there. I'm gonna end this with one question, but then it's going to be twofold, right? So one, tell people where they can find and contact you. And we always like to say, do a quick highlight of what you're going to be speaking about at the event, but give people that's kind of like 3 questions, right? Tell us where we can find you, a quick highlight of what you're going to be talking about at the summit, and then end us with some words of wisdom where we can be always, forever, whoever comes back and listens to this will be inspired to be a prescription for change.
So, okay, so what's the first question again?
Where can people find you? What's your website?
Okay, you can just look for me on LinkedIn under Esther Graham or Festa Della Donna. My website is fddwomen.com. And then, of course, I'm also on Facebook or on Instagram. If you look up Esther Graham, that's fine, and you'll find me. What will I be talking about at the summit? I will be talking about the heart set and the mindset shift, and the connection between the two. I'm so super excited about it because can I just say it's going to be powerful? I'm already going to be around powerful people. So, I have to make sure I'm coming and bringing it well. But yeah, so it's the heart set and the mindset shift, and the importance of the two and how they're connected to wherever it is that you want to go in life, wherever that is, and in every area of your life.
And what's one final piece of advice?
Ah,
And that last piece is just a piece of advice to continue to inspire people to continue being a prescription for change.
A prescription for change is outside of be the change you want to see, but version 1 is better than version none. Meaning, get out there and do it.
Right.
You can't want change doing the same things over and over and over again. So that prescription means get out there and do it, and do something different. Do something that you know that you've called to do, but you've not did it before. Version 1 is better than version none.
I love that. You should coin that. Hey, this has been a great interview. Thank you, Dr. Graham, for your time today. Thank you to the audience, wherever you're tuning in from. We can officially say by the time this airs, or really as of today, but by the time this airs, we are now on major platforms such as Amazon, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. So we're officially done that. And you can also find us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And so just, tune in, listen to this awesome podcast, and check us out at the Prescription for Career Success Summit. Thank you and have a great day. Remember that you are the prescription for a change.